Okay, let's look at the first question. Phonological development of English-speaking child includes all of the following, except. So the answer should be except. Pay attention to except. So A, the child comes to know approximately 44 different consonants and vowels is part of phonological development. The child comes to know clean is a possible word, but live is not, because the two sounds represented by g and are not allowed to combine in such a way in word initial position English. And so this is also part of phonological development. And this part of phonological development is about the rules that govern the combination of sounds in a language such as English. C, the child comes to know that John kissed Mary and Mary kissed John are both fine sentences, although they have different meanings. So this is syntactic development. This is not phonological, so this is syntactic. So C is the right answer. Option B, the child comes to know the stress patterns of his or her native language is also part of phonological development. It's about the suprasegmental phonology. So we talked about segmental phonology. It's about the sounds and the individual sounds or phonemes. And suprasegmental phonology is about the stress patterns or the rhythmical patterns or prosody of a language. Okay, question 2. In order to learn words, children need to turn the sound wave they hear into individual words in the native language. This potential challenge is called the segmentation problem. Essentially, we talked about this in class. Children, they hear a continuous stream of speech. You do not usually hear individual sounds or individual words. So children need to segment the continuous stream of speech into individual words or individual sounds for word learning or for speech perception development. B is the question 3. The following 3 words that a child produced all involve the phonological process of, the right answer is consonant cluster reduction, because here, the first example, blanket is produced as barking. So the l sound, this l sound is admitted. And the second example, the l sound is also admitted. And the third example, the l sound is also admitted. So in all the 3 cases, a consonant, in this case, the l sound is admitted in a word initial consonant cluster. So this process is called consonant cluster reduction. 4A, it is possible to have several phonological processes affecting speech production at any one time. In this particular example, the target word is class, and the actual production is gawk. So as you can see, first, if you compare the actual production with the target, so you will notice, first of all, so in the target, there is a consonant cluster, and here you have only a consonant, a single consonant. So a consonant cluster is admitted. So we have a process called, so this is involve consonant cluster deletion. And then you will also notice now the final consonant, this sound is replaced by the k sound. So this sound is replaced by the k sound. So we have a substitution, but more than that, you'll notice that the the dental sound is replaced by a velar because we know that there is an initial velar, so there is a velar sound in the context, okay, in the neighborhood. So the initial k sound, the initial velar sound kind of triggered the substitution of the dental sound by another velar sound k. So this substitution is more specifically called velar assimilation. Another change you will notice that the initial k sound, which is a voiceless sound, is replaced by a voiced velar sound. So we see a process of voicing. Okay. Yeah. So the only thing that is not available, we don't find, is fronting. Number 5, infants are sensitive to the frequency distribution of speech sounds in the input. English-speaking children learn to make a distinction between R and LA sounds because they can detect that American English R and LA sounds are produced with a, so we look like here, so we see that these are the distribution of the English R and the English L sound. So we see a bimodal distribution. So here I have bimodal. In contrast to the Japanese L and R sound, there was only a unimodal distribution. So the answer is B. 6. By 18 months, the child learning Dutch will treat a long vowel and a short vowel as two different sounds, whereas a child growing up in English has learned that this distinction is not contrastive and will treat a long R and a short R as allophones. So the variation of the same phoneme are called the allophones of the phoneme. We have mentioned this before in English, in American English, this length of vowel length is not a contrastive feature, but vowel length is a contrastive feature in Dutch, and in fact, it's also a contrastive feature in many other languages. 7, this figure shows that at 10 to 12 months, the ability of the Japanese infant to discriminate the English R contrast declined, as we can see here. Okay. Decline. This line. At the same time, we see this is the American infant. Let's change the color. Okay. If we look at the American infant, we see that the ability to discriminate this L R sound, in fact, showed an increase. So let's say increase. So this is straightforward here, the increasing pattern upward, and the Japanese infants, they are no longer able to differentiate the L sound when they are about 12 months old. So we see a downward pattern here. The answer is B. Number 8, which of the following is the most possible explanation for the observed contrast between American English infants in the figure in question 7? So the answer for number 8, in fact, can be found in here. So we see, so here there is a bimodal distribution, there is a unimodal distribution. So So the answer is B. Now, let's look at question 9. Okay, question 9 is about this study. This study. So it talks about two explanations for the so-called non-bias. Explanation A is the conceptual explanation, and explanation B is the linguistic explanation. Basically, explanation B suggests that verb learning involves more than non-learning. So for non-learning, observation is sufficient, but for verb learning, children need additional linguistic information. So in this particular study, 2007 study, adults viewed a series of silent video clips of a mother and a child playing. A beep or nonsense word occurred, coincident with either the missing noun or verb. The participant's job was to simply guess what word the speaker might have used in place of the beep during the video parent-child interaction. The findings were dramatic. Adults who presumably had no conceptual difficulties with the objects and events represented on the tapes correctly guessed the missing nouns in 35% of the cases. In stark contrast, the proportion of correct guesses for verbs was only 15%. So even for adults, it is very difficult to guess the verbs and the nouns correctly when those words are replaced by a beep sound. However, when observational evidence was supplemented with full linguistic information, this long advantage disappeared, which means when when the adults have the help of the linguistic information in addition to the observable context, they are able to discriminate, or they are able to identify nouns and verbs in a similar pattern, in a similar fashion. So these results has been used to provide explanation for B, suggesting that the addition of linguistic information has made the acquisition or learning of verbs possible, or have made the learning of verbs and nouns to be very similar. That's to say, these adults, they are able to guess the verbs as accurately as nouns, even though they only hear the beep sound. They're able to guess about the actual nouns or verbs that have been used. Question 10 is again based on the same study. The right answer, we talked about this in class. This study, why nouns trump verbs in word learning. first of all, so this study is about the non-advantage in word learning or non-bias in word learning. And the evidence, new evidence from children and adults in the human simulation paradigm. What is important is that human simulation task, so they do not use infants, okay? They use the older children and adults. But most importantly, the evidence comes from the adults, as you can see in question 9. So the answer for this question is C, okay? C. So A is not the right answer because so this study didn't use computers to simulate infant learning. And B B is not the right answer because this study did not use infant as the participant. D is not the right answer because, again, not computers. Question 11. Part of learning a word is to know its, here the answer is syntactic property. So a verb can be a transitive verb, intransitive verb, or a ditransitive verb. And this is part of syntactic property. 12. So as you can see, this answer, this question is kind of straightforward. Categorize. So this study categorized 24 English speech consonant sounds into early, middle, and late acquisition groups. So you can see early, middle, and late acquisition groups which means that this researcher grouped the 24 English consonants on the basis of how early or how late they English-speaking children acquire these sounds. So certainly, the answer is B. So this suggests that English-speaking children acquire some sounds earlier than the other sounds. Okay, number 13. This study, as you can see, first of all, this study, in this 1996 study, it is observed that infants detect and exploit the statistic property. So just the property. So if it is easy, so this answer should be statistic. Okay, the question 14. The following figure suggests that words like dominates in the earliest moments of child language development. So if we look at the figure with common nouns, so dominates, so a large percentage of the early words that children acquire are common nouns. And we just need to find an example from these 4 options that is a common noun. So A is a noun, B is a verb, C is a preposition, and D is an adjective. 15. Which of the following utterance produced by 2-year, 10-month-old child contains the phonological process of consonant cluster reduction? So the only thing we have is here, scaring the child. The target is scaring. Scared or scared. And the initial consonant S sound is deleted. So we have a consonant cluster, and one of the consonant is omitted, and this process is called consonant cluster reduction. So the answer is D. move on to the next page. Sometime around 18 months of age, but ranging from 15 to 24 months. So this is average. 18 months is average, and the range, that's the individual variations, individual differences. Okay. So children achieve a production vocabulary of 50 words. So the answer is B. We know that it's also when children have about 50 words, they start to combine words to form simple utterances. And also at this time, vocabulary, we typically see a vocabulary spread in most of the children. '17. So this is study based on the 1995. This is about the 1995 study, and so we need to look at this figure and see what this figure tells us about vocabulary development in these children. So look at A, the three groups of children. So we see group one, professional children from professional background, high SES background, working class background, and the welfare background. So these are the three groups of children. And so three groups of children. The three groups of children show disparity in early vocabulary. That's true. So if you look at the recorded vocabulary size, so for the children, group one is 1,000, group two is 700, and group three is 500. Okay. One. So A, we see A in this figure, in this table. Okay. The children exposed to a larger amount of adult input develop larger, richer vocabulary than children exposed to more limited input. And we see this, if we look at the adult, so this is the adult parent, these are the parents, these are the parents, this is the parent. And if we look at this group here, group one, so the parents had a larger vocabulary, okay, and the children have larger vocabulary. And then, more importantly, we look at this average utterance per hour. So that's the parents, okay? These are the input. This input. So we see this, so the first group, the parents produce more words in front of the children. Let's just say children from the first group, they heard more words. They have a larger input, larger amount of input. Okay, and so similarly, they produce a larger vocabulary than the second group of children who have the smaller amount of input, and so the vocabulary size is also smaller. Similarly, the third group, group 3, they had the lowest input, and so the children's vocabulary size is also lowest. So C, so B is also, the information is also available in the table for statement B. Let's see. Number C, the three groups of parents differ in the amount of utterances and words per hour addressed to the children. This is also the blue line, the input, okay? Blue. Also shows here. Input. Okay. Number D, so you know that the answer is clearly indicated in clear, very clear D, because statement D is about speech perception development. Infants who do not tune their perceptual system to the native language phonemes in a timely manner may show later difficulties with other aspects of language development. So this is a true statement. Okay, this is a true statement. D is a true statement, but not the right answer, because it is it is not what the study is about. Okay, number 18. Children often find the thematic relations between objects. For example, cats eat mice, birds build nests, or dogs like bones, particularly salient and interesting. When 2 and 3-year-olds were presented with two basic level objects, for example, two different kinds of dogs, and a third thematically related object, dog food, or for example, bones, they showed a tendency to select a dog and a dog food. That's to say, they showed a tendency to rely on the thematic relations. However, they rejected semantic relations as the first hypothesis about what a novel word might refer to. Instead, they constrained the possible meanings of words to refer to objects of like kind. For example, if one of the dogs was labeled with an unfamiliar word, look, this is the text, Okay, so DAX is an unfamiliar word or sometimes called nonsense word. Nonsense word. Nonsense. It's essentially, this is a word learning situation because now child needs to learn this unfamiliar word. The children were more likely to select the two dogs. This illustrates the basic phenomenon. When children believe they are learning a new word, they focus on taxonomic relations because two dogs here, they are the same type, they belong to the same taxonomy. So in this case, um, the children are focusing on the taxonomic relations, not the thematic relations. Answer is A. 19. Child language researchers have proposed several principles that guide children to map novel labels to novel objects. So here, this part, first the sentence, children guide children map novel. The process of mapping novel labels to novel objects. That's essentially the mapping process or the mapping problem, or I think it's part of word learning. This question is about your understanding of those principles. So we're talking about the linguistic principles, such as whole object principle, the mutual exclusivity principle, the taxonomic principle that we talked about in question 18, and also the shape bias. So those are the principles that have been proposed to guide children's initial word learning. In particular, those principles will help for children to deal with the potential challenges, such as segmentation problem, the mapping problem, the extension problem. Imagine that the child is presented with two toys. One is a toy car, and the child already knows the name car. The other has never been seen before. So one of the objects is a novel object, okay, without a label. If the experiment asks the child to hand me the car, children as young as 16 months can fly. Means that they can follow the instruction. They understand the instruction and they can follow the instruction. In particular, they know the word car, okay? Because they already know the name car for the toy car. But if the experiment instead asks, hand me the DAX. Now the DAX is a nonsense word, is a unfamiliar label, unfamiliar word. How is the child to decide on the correct reference? Now you have a word, nonsense word, new word, and you need to find a reference for this word. How the child do that? Okay. Using, yeah, the answer is mutual exclusivity principle. The child may be driven to preferably map the novel label DAX to the novel toy because the car, which is another toy, already has a non-label. According to the mutual exclusivity principle, each object can only receive one label. So since the toy car already has a label, so it cannot receive another label. So this is the answer is C. Whole object principle is the principle that a new word will refer to the whole object, not part of its object, or not some property of the object. The taxonomic principle, we have already seen. This is the question 18. Taxonomic principle. Okay. 20. Question 20. So this study, this question actually is in the reading. So if you look at the reading for the first week, then you will find at the end of that reading, so you will see this question. Unfortunately, some of you missed this question, the answer. So here's the question: which comparison A, B, C, D? So there were 4 comparisons, and you need to find out which comparison indicates American influence learning of the Mandarin Chinese sound contrast in the live exposure to Mandarin, but not in other types of exposure. So basically, here already shows you, the question already shows you what are the comparison you need to look at. So first of all, you need to look at you need to see a result that shows the children in live exposure condition in comparison to other type of exposure. So at least you need to have for live exposure and other type of exposure, right? So so of course, if you are familiar with the study, so you know that this is a live exposure, and so you have television exposure, audio only exposure. So you need to have these are the audio only, television only exposure, and then live exposure is here. So here you need to compare live exposure you need to live exposure with television exposure and audio exposure. So you need to compare this with this. So the answer is D. D. The answer is D. Okay. Comparison D. Right answer. Comparison D. Involving live exposure, TV exposure, and audio only exposure. That's it for this page. We have another page. Let's go. Let's first. Okay. #21. This question is about is based on this 1990 study. Children use syntax to learn word learning. So this is the essential part. So if you look at results, so here, from here to here, you may not need this information. But let's see. Results showed that the children's choice of reference was a function of the syntactic structure in which the verb had appeared, as it was a function of, uh, basically means that uh, the children's choice of reference, you can say depend on, in other words, uh, to replace a function of is simply you can say depend. The children's choice of reference was dependent on the syntactic structure in which the verb had appeared. The group of children who had heard the word in the transitive frame, basically if the children heard the transitive sentence, the consistent looked longer at causative action because we know that transitive frame describes a causative action, and the intransitive sentence frame describes a non-causative action. Okay. So this is what we need to do. Okay. Positive, blue color, positive. And if you look at this intransitive frame, intransitive frame, non non positive action. So the answer is A. So here actually we mentioned here, so causative action, a dog pushing a bunny repeatedly. So this is a transitive sentence. And a non-causative, both ducks and they were waving on of the doing something. Okay. Number 22. So this question, I basically everyone get credit for this, no matter which answer you choose. Okay, you'll get free. So this kind we throw out this question. Question 22. Everyone got 4 points, no matter which answer you choose. Okay, let's look at the last 3 questions. 23. A child who hears for the first time an adult say "gavaga" in synchrony with a rapid running faces a special challenge in learning the new word "gavaga." So if This is the Gavaga problem. Essentially, the mapping problem. Doesn't mean rabbit, long tail. So you hear a word, then now you need to find out the reference for the word. Doesn't mean rabbit. So you need to map the word to its reference. So this potential challenge is mapping. The answer is B. This is the mapping problem. Yeah, the mapping problem. The first one, A, the segmentation problem. And C, the extension problem. Or generalization problem. So the answer is B. 24. A critical indicator of spoken language knowledge is the ability to discern the finest possible distinction that exists between words in a language minimal pairs. In phonology, minimal pairs are pairs of words in a particular language that differ in only one phonological element, such as phoneme, and have distinct meanings. Minimal pair can also be a pair of words that differ in, for example, in tone in a language such as Chinese. So, for example, in a word, ma, if it is first with first tone and with second tone in Chinese. So this is the minimal pair. Ma, first one means mother. So as you can see in Chinese, now these two words is a minimal pair. These two words, they differ in the same phonemes, but they have the same phonemes, but they differ in the tone and they have different meanings. So they are minimal pair. In English, so the question here is to find out the minimal pairs. Let's look at some questions. So catch, catch, natch. Okay. So the first is we have the sound and the low sound, two sound. So B differ in the initial sound and they have different meanings. So this is the minimal pair. B is the minimal pair. Here, mouse, mouse. So you have the dental sound and this. So it's also a minimal pair. Mid, mid. So this is not a minimal pair because you have, even though you have two different words, but these two words have the same sound, or the sound combination. So this is a homophone, so they have the same phone. So these two sounds are minimal sound. And unfortunately, I made a mistake here. So C is also a right answer. So if your choice is A or C, you both you will get 4 points. You'll get 4 credits for this question, either A or C. So C is not a minimal pair because first of all, you see the initial sound, you have two loss. You have the low sound. I will just write the consonants and you have this two sound, the dental, and then here we have the loss. So in this particular example, you differ in this k sound, but you also differ in this sound, the final sound. So there are two different sounds, or two differences when you compare these two words. So it's not a minimal pair. A minimal pair differ in only one phonological segment. Okay, differ in only one phonological segment. A, no difference. It doesn't differ any phonological element. And C differ in two phonological segments. So A and C are not minimal pairs. 25. This question, again, this question is also in the reading of the first week. So you can find this, and also it's in the practical exam, of course. Okay. Here's the exam question to produce a yes/no question from the declared sentence. The boy who was holding the plate is crying. An English-speaking child needs to learn to move the auxiliary be in the main clause or the relative clause to the sentence initial position. So some students, have difficulty with the be. So be is a verb that takes different forms. So was, is, are, aim, were, being, oh, let's see. Are all different forms of the same verb be. So basically the question you ask me to whether you need to do we move was or do we move is to the beginning of the sentence? Of course, you know the boy who was holding the plate is crying. So in this case, you have to move is to the beginning, right? You have to move, you need to move is to the beginning of the sentence. So you need to say is the boy who was holding the flag. Card. Okay. So it is okay. And here, what is in the relative clause? So the correct answer is A. So you need to move for is the verb be, which takes the form is to the beginning of the sentence, and it is in the main clause. Okay, that's all for the 25 questions in the first exam. Hope this helps. Let me know if you have any other question, email me or talk to me after class. Thank you for your hard work. You have done a very good job. The average of this exam is about 72 points.